If you can believe it, the description of skills on some of our favorite commanders changed recently, and although I covered some of this in a previous video, I didn't even notice that there was a major change to Yisong, Sun Tzu, and many of our favorite commanders. Stick around to see how this text change impacts our understanding of the way these commanders actually work and how you should use them. Hello, my friends, and welcome back. I'm Chisgule Gaming. Today, we have a lot of important things to talk about with regard to the description of skill damage in Rise of Kingdoms and how that changes the way you might use some of your very favorite commanders. If you like Rise of Kingdoms guides that help you get value and smash your enemies, consider smashing that subscribe button for daily Rise of Kingdoms videos. We're a sponsored content creator, and I didn't notice that when they went in and they updated the descriptions of some of the skills. I mean, maybe this changed after. Maybe this is something I just missed. But commanders like Sun Tzu and Yisong used to boost active skill damage of commanders, and now they just boost all skill damage, it looks like. Maybe it's always been that way. In fact, it probably has been. The developers indicated when they made the update, these are just text changes, not functionality changes. But that was really surprising to me. In addition, a whole bunch of commanders had something called additional damage factor. So there was two types of damage factor. There was this sort of direct damage factor, and there was also an additional damage factor that, again, commanders like Alexander the Great had on their second skill, that commanders like Freddy had on their active skill, and it is now missing from a bunch of these skills. Heck, even Minamoto had something called additional damage factor listed here, and now it's just all damage factor. P.S. Chisgule from the future here. I'm on my farm now, and it does actually list additional damage factors still down here in the description when you haven't expertised the commander, but after you expertise them, the upgrade preview disappears, so you'd never know that this is actually still additional damage factor. I'm also, again, this is Chisgule from the future, I'm about to talk about Frederick the First, who is going to look like he only does direct damage factor, but in fact, down here, it still says additional damage factor, so this is still a little bit confusing, and there's an opportunity to improve because my expertise Freddy is not going to say additional damage factor anywhere because the upgrade preview is going to have disappeared. Now, this is interesting because this influences the way that talents impact skill damage and maybe the way that, I don't know, does Sun Tzu and Yisong influence additional damage factor or not? In this video, we're going to do some testing to figure that out and see what the heck has actually changed. I can tell you that leading up to this video, we did some testing ourselves to see how this stuff works. Heck, why don't we just show it to you? The first thing I'm going to show you is using just an Alexander the Great primary, and we're going to go hit something. And the reason we're doing this is just to get a baseline for the amount of damage that Alexander the Great is going to deal. After we've done that, we're going to pair him up with an Yisong, and we'll show you the amount of damage that Alexander the Great's second skill does when boosted by Yisong. Previously, it listed additional damage factor for the second skill on Alexander the Great, but now not only is it not additional damage factor, active skill damage is no longer the modifier for Yisong. In other words, Yisong should boost Alexander the Great, assuming I can get him to fire off. There it is. 9,000 damage. 9,800 is what we got there. That took a little while to do. I'm just going to back him off real quick. The target was already kind of low. Let's just run that one more time once we leave combat. By the way, I'm sure you knew this, that when you step away from a fight but hit the same target, it doesn't use more action points. You can see if you rewind the video that it did not use more action points when I stepped away and then jumped back in just now to hit the exact same target. Boom. 9,666 damage. Good enough. Keep in mind that number. We're going to treat our Alexander the Great. We're going to pair him up with an Yisong. Now, previously, again, Yisong said it boosted the active skill damage of a commander. This wasn't an active skill. It still isn't an active skill. Has Alexander the Great always been boosted by Yisong? I think the answer is definitely yes. I would be shocked if that was an actual change to the functionality, although I didn't run this test before, so I couldn't tell you definitively. Now, what we would expect, boom, 12,800 damage. We would have expected that to be the exact same if Isong wasn't boosting Alexander the Great. So Isong is definitely boosting Alexander the Great. That's the active skill of Isong. Don't get confused about what you're seeing there. Here comes the active skill of Isong again. We're looking for that second skill from Alexander the Great. Boom! 12,400 damage. All right, you get the idea. You get the idea. I'm going to retreat that back to town. So we've just proven that commanders like Isong and Sun Tzu used to say they boosted the active skill damage, but actually they boost all skill damage, which is kind of a buff to the way those commanders operate, but we're not done yet. We're not done yet, because you see, there's something else we need to test, and it's very similar. Some commanders still say additional damage factor from some of their abilities. For example, El Cid still says additional damage factor. Is this just something they overlooked, or does additional damage factor operate differently? And if it operates differently, like, how does latent power work? It looks like there are still some number of skills in the game that say additional damage factor, but there are definitely less than there were before. So let's just do the same test we just did. Let's run El Cid out of our city. And we're going to run the exact same test. We're going to get him prepped. Oh, he's level 40. Rip low level El Cid. And we're going to bring a type of troop other than archers. The reason is that I want to pair El Cid with Isong to see that big damage boost. However, I don't want the second skill of Isong, which gives 100% archer attack for 3 seconds, to mess up the results. So I'm going to bring infantry. Pro tip, don't bring infantry with El Cid. I mean, kind of doesn't care that much about troop type. He only gives 20% archer attack and some march speed, but that's a separate idea. All right, here we go. We're going to use El Cid. We're going to hit this target. We're looking for the 10% chance that he does 1,000 damage factor to fire off. There it is, 4,900 damage. You saw it here. There's his active skill. Let's see it again. We're looking for like 4,000-ish damage. We're going to see it. Oh, nope. Hold on. Active skill. All right. Let's see if we can get it to pop off one more time. Oh, look at the active skill of the enemy hitting us. Man, that El Cid skill is looking real good in this video, isn't it? Wow. We're just like really losing out on the random number generator this morning for El Cid's, what is it, second skill. What do we got? No, still hasn't happened. Maybe it happened. Wow. So it's about 4,000 damage. We'll back it off. We'll back it off. Run it into the city. We can look at the report and show you exactly how much damage that was. Battle log. We got it pretty early in the fight. The thing we're going to do is we're going to go look at this number. There it is. Poem of El Cid. 4,095 units lost. I want to know if Isong and Sun Tzu are going to buff additional damage factor. Is that how bonus to skill damage works? Easy test. Easy test to see if this boosts additional damage factor. So we're going to take our El Cid, make him the primary. We're going to take our YSG, make him the secondary. We're going to bring all infantry. And we're just going to do a quick check on the talents for El Cid to reveal, like, hey, there's nothing in here that would randomly give us a boost here. There is a boost to skill damage. Active skill damage. Son of a gun. So this presumably still does active skill damage. It's just the Isong and the Sun Tzu and a bunch of things that said additional damage factor that were not additional damage factor, apparently. But this should all be fine. There's nothing in here that would, after the primary commander uses a skill, active skill damage of the secondary commander is increased. All right. All right, that's all fine. That's all fine and good. Nothing in here would influence the results. 4,090-ish, I believe is what it was. 4,000, just north of it. How much is he going to do now with all these infantry? By the way, an enemy kingdom watching me do this would be so confused. 5,226 damage. There it was. 5,226 damage So it is boosting additional damage factor as well. Wow. I'm going to actually finish off this Barb this time. I no longer need him for testing. Thank you very much, level 39 Barb. Your consolation prize, Your consolation prize for participating today is get wrecked. I think I'm going to win anyways. So while this fight finishes out, let me talk about some of the conclusions from what I've just seen. What I've just seen is that YSG and Sun Tzu boost both additional damage factor and direct damage factor. They boost both active skill damage and non-active skill damage. This has implications for who you might pair these commanders with that, like, in theory, this information hasn't actually changed in the way the game works. It's just much more clear now how it actually does work. And like, yeah, this is a much more clear description. In fact, I would say the previous version was most certainly an inaccurate description. So looking in on some of these commanders that like have a huge impact by the way this is worded, commanders like Alexander the Great. I mean, like, we knew that Alexander the Great YSG was a good pair. We knew that Alexander the Great with Sun Tzu was a great pair. Now we know that, like, oh yeah, it's because probably this whole time he's been getting a boost to skill damage, even though it said it didn't. Continuing to look in here, Guan, curiously enough, still says additional damage factor, but gets a nice boost from YSG. We knew these two were a very good pair, a bit of a glass cannon, but solid together. I don't remember if this said direct damage factor or additional damage factor on the expertise of Ramses, but that'd be interesting to unpack. We do see we've got the additional damage factor on El Cid, who gets a nice benefit from YSG. Also getting a nice benefit from YSG is Mehmed, right over here. Additional damage factor, not the active skill. So Sun Tzu, Mehmed, YSG, Mehmed, very solid pairings. Very solid pairings, because like this is getting a boosted damage as well. Now we're talking about hitting a city, which, okay, maybe you wouldn't have paired your Mehmed YSG, but let me give you an example of commanders you might have paired together. Let's see here. Scrolling on through some commanders you might have paired together. Oh, say Osman and YSG, Osman and Sun Tzu. Get that nice rage engine going with boom. Direct damage factor, 400. Theoretically, based on our test results, this should get a really nice boost from YSG and Sun Tzu. There's a lot of commanders. A lot of commanders. Heck, I mean, I'll keep going. I personally use Kusunoki YSG on my alt, on my farm. Guess what, my friends? Right over here, we've got a skill that's not the active skill that does damage factor, that probably this whole time has been getting boosted. Oh my gosh. So were these commanders actually buffed? Have they changed? I actually can't tell you if they've changed. I'll tell you though, the description has changed, and it influences my understanding of exactly how they've been working this entire time. I am glad to see, and I do think it's positive, to move in the direction where there's not as much of this like active skill, direct damage, additional damage factor, and active skills. Like, all of that was maybe a little confusing, and it is much cleaner to just say like, yeah, we boost skill damage, that thing that, I don't know, maybe they've been doing this whole time. If you enjoyed this video, consider subscribing to the channel for daily Rise of Kingdoms videos and news. We also do a lot of coverage of how commanders work. I'll put a card up in the top that covers Joan of Arc, Alexander the Great, and Constantine, detailed mechanics that many players don't understand. In fact, heck, we've done 2 videos with detailed mechanics that go way beyond just the description of what the skills actually say. Check those videos out, again, if you're looking for more technical understanding of how this game works. And until next time, my friends, you have fun smashing the kingdom.